Thank you. Very good to see everyone here today. Happy to be able to spend these few moments with you. I have prepared remarks, but a couple of things occurred to me. I'm thinking when I first joined the office of the president, which was as vice president for health affairs now almost well, in 2000, so 24 years ago. And one of the things that was an initiative that we had at the time was a thing called the California-Mexico Health Initiative. We were looking at the health status of people in California. And an issue came up at that time, and that was that we were looking at, and I'm going to guess it was the kindergarten or first graders in public school in California. And it turned out that the majority were Latinx at that time. There was just the crest of a wave then those 25, 24 years ago. And the concept was, of course, that that was going to continue to move forward. So it was the kindergarten and first graders in second grade, third grade, then pretty school, soon most people in grade school, and then most in middle school, and then most high school graduates from public high schools in California. And we at the University of California had to learn at that time knew, had to be prepared to be the right place for them to go for the next phase in their educational careers. And so it's interesting to think back 24 years ago to where we were and to where we've grown to now, and the importance of initiatives like this to make sure that we continue to move forward. A couple other things I'll share. I remember very well I was chancellor at UC Irvine. And Irvine actually became an HSI about 10 years ago. We and Santa Barbara were the first two AAU institutions to become HSIs, so I recommend it highly. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. Also, I will say, you said the HSI. I happened to be at Ohio State for a while. We would say the HSI, but that's just a tiny point for you to. Yeah, I think that'd be. I'd love it that UCLA would be the HSI. That would be the right way to move it forward. I think that's something you could do. But I was going to say that when I was chancellor, we new chancellor had been appointed here, and before he arrived in the job, Gene came down to Irvine. We had a great lunch to talk about how it was going to go and different things that would make it all successful. It's great. It's amazing to see the progress that's happened at this university in those 17 years and the progress that continues to happen. So I want to thank you for all you've done and all you're doing to continue to make UCLA the leading public research institution in the world. And then let me say more. And Michele, great to see you as well. We had a great meeting in January in Sacramento talking broadly about the things we can do as a state to be a more welcoming and supportive, more welcoming and supportive set of institutions for our citizens. And I appreciate the work that we do every day, all these years to do that. Now it's all growing forward. So great to have you here today. And then let me say, I want to thank everyone who's here today. We're grateful really for all the work that's been done and for everyone who's working hard to make this all happen. We're all happy that you're bringing your energy and focus to this visioning session today. The University of California broadly strives to be a place that cultivates learning environments where everyone can thrive. In these days, we all read the newspaper and we're watching TV. There's incredible tension in the world in multiple areas. And one of the things we do at universities is actually bring people from all of those perspectives together and then have the challenge of helping them to live and work and learn and grow together. It's a wonderful opportunity for us. At times it's very, very difficult, but it's the work of people like all of us here today, all of you here today, that make this possible and allow us to continue to thrive. So thank you for that work that you're doing. I think it was mentioned earlier today that 5 of our 9 undergraduate campuses already have HSI status, and we're looking forward to having the other 4 achieve this status by 2030. Great progress moving in that direction. I will say, I said today I want to make sure that UCLA is the HSI serving institution. We really want the University of California to be the HSI serving institution of the. Thank you for that. So we celebrate the progress, but we know that the much work has yet to be done. So we're all going to keep on pushing together. HSI designation will inspire new initiatives at UCLA. You've heard about several of them today. And these goals are focused on improving outcomes across student populations and to make sure that the underrepresented first generation and low income students that we welcome are able to see this as their home, that are able to make all of us their family, and are able to go on and serve our broader communities for the rest of their lives. So thank you for all that you are doing to make the University of California the very best that it can be. Thank you for all that you do to make UCLA the very best that it can be. Great to see you all here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your commitment, for your continued commitment to this effort. And we're only getting started. Yeah. Now I have a distinct honor to introduce our Dean of Undergraduate Education, Adriana Galvan. I was an undergraduate here when they hired her, and I remember as an undergrad in psychology what big of a deal that was to have a Latina, yes, neuroscientist at our campus. And now, I think I was away when they announced that you were. Going to be our dean of undergraduate education. And so I'm glad that we get to do this work together. And now with the establishment, now that we have a gift for the establishment of the Latino Success Center, I know that your office is going to be a very, very important partner in that effort. So welcome, Adriana Galvan.
Thank you, Liz. I am delighted to be. Okay, there we go. To be here with all of you today, and I will thank Liz. Liz is obviously fabulous, but I also want to thank all of you. All of you are here today in your capacity as change makers. Thank you for being here today and for showing up for our community every day, not just today, because it really is a group effort, and it's just wonderful to be here with all of you today. I have the great pleasure of introducing Michele Siqueiros. You can read about her bio in the program, but I'll give you a brief overview. She is the driving force behind the Campaign for College Opportunity. It is a California-based nonprofit policy advocacy and research organization committed to ensuring more students can go to college. And it does a lot of wonderful work. It produces reports. But Michele, in particular, is so impactful because she ensures that all legislatures and media and key partners understand and the need for young people to go to college and to get a quality education. She makes it uncomfortable for colleges and universities to accept poor outcomes for students, and that is exactly the kind of advocate that we need. So thank you, Michele. Um, she also serves on many boards, and she's in conversation with all the folks we need her to be in conversation with. So thank you for all that hard work, and I look forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you and good morning. When I got dropped off by my Uber, I still get the chills coming to campus. There's something so magical about this place. I don't know how to move this up a little bit further. Okay, beyond my expertise here. Uh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, President Drake. Thank you, Chancellor Block. Wow, that was a moment. Um, I landed at UCLA in 1995, doing the math 29 years ago on an affirmative action fellowship at UCLA in the School of Urban Planning. It's been renamed so many times, I can't remember. I studied here amongst the greatest professors, including Dr. Leo Estrada. And when I doubted myself as a first generation college graduate, first to go to college and earn a bachelor's degree, and first to go to grad school at one of the world's best institutions, nonetheless, and even though I was personally filled with lots of doubt, Dr. Estrada never doubted me. And that's one way to be a Hispanic serving institution. He also made sure that when my thesis was delayed, he kept pressing me. And then finally, he gave me the most important advice, which I think applies in all things. In 4 words, he said, just turn it in. And so, as a graduate of UCLA with a master's in urban planning, because I turned it in, Thank you. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for doing this important visioning work that you are doing. Um, as one of the many students that benefited from Dr. Estrada and many of the incredible professors here, thank you. And a special, special big thank you to all of you who continue to carry the torch in support of students, including Professor Hurtado, including Professor Ortiz, Gándara, Orfield, Noriega, Teriquez, I see Solorzano in the back, and Alfred Herrera, among so many others. Thank you for what you do for students. You know, for the past 20 years, I've dedicated my career to expanding college access for Californians. And you can't be serious about expanding college access in California without being intentional about doing it for Latino students. You can't be serious about improving graduation rates if you're not doing it for Latinx students. And you can't really be serious about improving the state of California, the future of our nation, without thinking about Latinx student access and success. The demographics are obvious. We've heard them, and I'm going to just share a few slides here. And I'm going to quote James Baldwin, who stated about his love for America. I love America more than any other country in the world, and so I reserve the right to criticize her. And so today I will tell you I love UCLA, and I will be criticizing her. I want to say, you know, the vision and goal and commitment to becoming an HSI is so critically important. And yet, since 2020, UCLA is still 2 percentage points behind. And when you see some of the admissions data, you're going to worry about whether or not that goal in 2025 is possible. So I'm glad that you're all gathered here, that the commitment is being made for what it means to really support enrollment and success for students. Among UC campuses, UCLA had the second lowest rate of incoming freshmen who were Latinx in the fall of 2023. And you can see that, we are only being beaten by Berkeley. Here on transfer students, we can see that things are much better, predominantly a result of the incredible work that Alfred Herrera and his team, Celia, continue to lead. So it's pretty clear that in order to achieve HSI status in 2 years, significant increases in the enrollment of Latinx students are going to have to happen. And this graph just shows you how far behind we are. In fact, in 2016, we admitted and enrolled more Latinx students than we did in 2022 in terms of raw numbers. I think some of you familiar with our work know that we make the case for ensuring students can enroll and succeed in college. And part of that success means that when students show up, they get to learn from all kinds of leaders, that they get the experience of diverse educators that teach them, that they get to see leaders walking the halls so that they can imagine being them. And so earlier this year, we released an update to a report from 2018 that was called Left Out. And by the title of our updated report, Still Left Out, you can see that not much has changed in terms of leadership diversity, in terms of faculty diversity, in terms of matching the very broad diversity of students, not to mention nowhere near matching the population diversity of California. In this graphic, what you see is UCLA's leadership. There is 0% Latinx leadership in the 17 top positions that we analyzed. In the academic senate, only 6% of academic senators are Latinx. Among tenured faculty, it's less than 10%. Non-tenured faculty, and I love including this figure because a lot of times folks say, well, the non-tenured faculty, the newer faculty coming in are more diverse. That is not true. That is not true at a lot of campuses, and it's not true at UCLA. So unless we are intentional about how we're going to recruit faculty that reflect the experience of our students, we've got to do something very different here. So just wanted to share that, I also, want to push back on the idea that the pipeline is the problem. We certainly know that Latinx students are not going to college and earning degrees in a rate reflective to their population, but there are a lot of Latinx graduates that are coming out of UCLA, coming out of all of the UCs, and most importantly, I understand you recruit faculty from the entire country, which means that you could be recruiting Latinx faculty from Florida and Texas, all of which actually produce more graduates with bachelor's degree than we do, and we should be ashamed of that. So in this, in releasing Still Left Out, I do want to share that we released a companion toolkit on equitable hiring practices that can be instituted. I recommend all of your hiring committees to really review that and be intentional. I know there's a lot of really great work and a lot to celebrate at UCLA with a lot of incredible hires, cluster hires that have been made recently to support the HSI vision for the campus. So I don't want to discount that, but more needs to be done. The last two slides, because we are talking about enrollment, I also just want to share that obviously graduation and completion matter, and I think here there's a lot to celebrate. That UCLA in particular does a really good job of graduating students. There is a gap. You can see the gray bar is white students. And so there still is a gap, but you can see how much it has closed. This is for first-time students at UCLA, and this one is for Black and Latinx transfer students to UCLA. You could see a bigger gap here in terms of the 2-year. At the 4-year rate, that gap really closes. I think these are data points that we should always be looking at, that we should be disaggregating them annually by race and ethnicity so that we know how best to support our students, because we can't solve a problem if we aren't actually looking at what there is to solve. So here I want to add the demographics are obvious. I don't need to tell you about how almost 40% of California is Latinx. More than 50% of LA County is Latinx. 53% of all high school graduates in the state of California are Latinx, and more record number of Latinx students are graduating with A through G, which means they're qualified and eligible to apply to the university. But it's not just about the demographics. The history of this university was possible with the leadership of a forgotten Mexican-American LA native, a story well documented by your very own Professor David Hayes Bautista, and yet a story that's not even included on your origin page on the website of UCLA. He wrote, in his roles, first as a state assemblyman from 1880 to 1881, then as a state senator from 1882 to 1886, the bilingual, bicultural Los Angeles native of Mexican origin, pointedly not of Spanish origin, Reginaldo Francisco del Valle was responsible for the establishment, funding, and winning of independent governance for the Los Angeles State Normal School. This institution was transferred to the Regents of the University of California to provide the institutional platform from which grew and developed the UCLA campus, dedicated in 1930. UCLA has a responsibility as the nation's preeminent public university to ensure it meets the needs of all Californians. This is especially true for the state's plurality population for Latinx folks. I've had the distinct pleasure of providing advice and guidance to various members of the Bruin community as an alum, an advisor, an advocate. Um, and since COVID-19, there have been several milestones that are integral to achieving this Hispanic serving designation that's really impressive. First, of course, Chancellor Block's commitment to attain HSI status by 2025. Second, a key set of necessary investments that UCLA has specifically made to diversify its faculty staff through the Rising to the Challenge initiative, for Black life, making strides towards HSI and the Native American and Pacific Islander Bruins Rising Initiative. Taken together, these are unparalleled set of investments which only strengthen this commitment and this vision. And as Chancellor Block said, it's the first time we are all coming together and working together towards that end. Yet creating an inclusive campus environment requires a set of key practices, complete stakeholder buy-in, accountability, and systemic change. The reality is that UCLA has much further to go to diversify its faculty, the very people responsible for governing the university into this next century. Similarly, as it relates to staff, you saw how UCLA lags in terms of representation. We are in the city and county of Los Angeles. Nowhere else in this nation is there such a large qualified pool of talented administrators and managers. It reminds me of Chris Rock, who wrote about the lack of diversity in Hollywood and said the following: is Hollywood Mexican enough? You're in LA. You've got to try not to hire Mexicans. For the past 6 years, I've had the pleasure of advising the Latino Policy and Politics Institute under the leadership of Sonia Diaz, whose vision and leverage for an institute was long overdue. It has been incredible to have that resource, and there is no better place for that to be than here in Los Angeles at UCLA. It is a voice for the community that has often been ignored or left out. More needs to be done to create these pathways for research, for student training, for community research partnerships so that we can connect all Bruins to the opportunities to advance these ideas with the city, the state, across the federal government as well. These models will only reinforce the investments that Chancellor Block has already made to increase representation and success of underrepresented scholars. It will also set in motion a strategic